Shortly after the Oasis map release, there was talk about it breaking the current meta of the game. A lot of that had to do with people not knowing the map yet, but lately I've noticed lesser used heroes finding more success across a variety of maps. What does that say about the meta overall? Hey guys, JV here with Level Up Gaming, discussing the meta concept in Overwatch and asking if it really matters. Is this all in our heads, or is there a strict meta that only highly skilled players can break out of? Generally speaking, the meta concept has to do with current hero balancing. When people talk about the meta in Overwatch in most games, it's all about hero balancing, how heroes stack up against each other, what counters what is more favorable in a certain situation. And of course, all of this depends on Blizzard and the Overwatch team that runs Overwatch constantly in this ever-evolving meta. Whenever they release balancing patches, that changes up the meta, and of course, we the community, the players, react to whatever the changes were. Commonly, you'll see reactions like, this hero is now overpowered, or they've been overpowered, they needed a change but they didn't get one. Now this hero is underpowered, Blizzard's nerfed it into the ground, it's unusable now, and on and on and on. It goes on. There's so many things that people can complain about. Obviously, when you've got millions of people playing, there's going to be so many different varying opinions, people jumping on certain bandwagons and representing others. Of course, Blizzard watches everything. They look at the subreddit, they look at YouTube videos, they look at every single part of the community, they observe, they evaluate, and then they release further patches to kind of tweak things to where they think they should be. And so far, I have enjoyed what Blizzard has done in terms of feedback, taking that and producing better content for Overwatch. It seems like they're not reactionary. They don't look at the gut reaction that immediately comes out when there's a change. They let it kind of sit for a while and then evaluate things after people have learned new characters or adjusted to balancing changes. So essentially, that's the current state of Overwatch meta. It's the balancing changes, how the community reacts, and then Blizzard reacting to that, and it's ever evolving. Now I'm going to take the opportunity to flip that on its head, turn around and look at exactly how we talk about the meta and how we apply it to the game, and a lot of the misconceptions that we have about how the meta actually affects the game. I'm guilty of these misconceptions. They've probably been in a few of my Overwatch videos so far where I say something is absolute, when in reality it's not absolute, it's just my experiences and I bring my own biases. And please don't think this is calling anyone out in particular, these are just my ideas. The first big misconception that I see is that teams can't be effective without this hero, Hero X, Diva, Roadhog, Reinhardt, whatever it may be. And the reality is that's not true. There is no giant gap in how good heroes are in this game. It's fairly balanced, and I think we have to give Blizzard credit and the Overwatch team credit for this, because this is a fairly balanced game. All heroes have the tools necessary to succeed if you know how to use them effectively. Obviously, some heroes are easier to succeed with than others. We're looking at Soldier. Obviously, Soldier is so easy to succeed with compared to most other heroes. But that doesn't mean you can't succeed without a Soldier on your team, because if you have a Genji who knows how to play a Genji, then you're going to be perfectly fine. And the reality is, if a lot of teams stick with the meta comps, so right now that would be 3 or 4 tanks with 1 healer and 1 attacker, or 2 healers, whatever it may be, a lot of teams learn how to counter those comps. Or probably what's more true is the other team just throws on the tank comp as well and they just grind it out. But we're also ignoring the fact that non-meta comps can truly turn the tide. If you truly throw on something that is unexpected, an offensive Bastion, an offensive Symmetra, it can truly change how things are going, because again, all these heroes have tools to succeed. It just depends on how you use them, and of course, situationally, how you match up against the enemy team. For example, just the other day, I learned in a comp game that Bastion is very good on offense on 2-cap maps, like Hanamura, Anubis, maps like that, where there's a Reinhardt just sitting there with the shield on defense, not letting your team get through. If you throw on a Bastion and you have the right positioning and the right comp to go around you, Bastion tears through that Reinhardt shield. Bastion is effectively a Reinhardt counter in those specific situations. I also noticed lately that I've been winning a lot of comp games without a Reinhardt on offense, where you would normally have one, like a payload map or, the 2-cap map, for example. You don't need a Reinhardt on offense. Right now with the current meta, I know I'm referencing the meta in a video, challenging the meta, but a Diva, a good Diva can effectively be a Reinhardt in the current meta. You don't need a Reinhardt on offense. Misconception number 2 is that you're going to lose if X hero is on your team. You know, the main ones that I complain about a lot are Genjis and Tracers. More Genji than anything, and Hanzo, but it's mostly Genji for me. It's true that some heroes are easier to succeed with. Why would you pick a Genji when you can just throw on a soldier, who again, like I said, is admittedly easier to succeed with? And on that same note, some heroes have less counters, like Zarya. Zarya has very few counters, but she counters other heroes very effectively. Again, we have to remember that all heroes have the tools to succeed in their toolbox. They've got the abilities, they have the damage, and the balancing is a lot closer than we think it is. In reality, skill is just the biggest factor. If you're bad with a current meta hero, like Roadhog, for example, with his ridiculous hook, you lose because you're hurting your team. You can't get those picks. If you're bad with a Roadhog, you are severely hurting your team. So instead of immediately being critical of the Genji on your team, look at how they're playing. Are they getting picks? Are they surviving? Are they getting picked? That's when you can get mad, because obviously it's easier to succeed with other characters. But if you put in the time and the effort and your skill is the biggest factor, then you can succeed with a Genji. It happens. We see really good pro Genjis all the time. The third misconception I run into is that Hero X is unusable on offense or defense, that there's this very strict set of heroes that you can use on either side. Obviously, we have hero roles in the game. They're divided into attackers, defenders, tanks, and supports. Hero roles are there for a reason. They make sense. It's an established thing. Everyone agrees on how that works. We can also agree that defensive heroes are in that category because they're usually slower, they're not very fast, and they're designed to hold off positions. That is what defensive heroes, pretty much the definition of a defense hero. Since we're on the topic, I think there's 3 heroes that maybe need to be put in different categories. Not that it matters that much. I'm just trying to make a point here. I think Winston currently should be an attacker. I think he's more of an attacker and kind of a chaotic poke character more than anything. And also the fact that Symmetra and Torbjorn are in different categories doesn't make any sense, since Torbjorn offers that armor, but Symmetra offers the shield. I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The point I'm making is that we really should not be teabagging or spamming thanks on offensive Widowmakers and Torbjorns. If you're in the game and you see them not performing, they're not getting picks, they're getting picked, it's okay, you know, to get mad and say, you know what, if we're going to win this game, you need to go ahead and switch. The reality is that this game was designed for you to be able to switch, and a lot of people don't. They stay on one character. They think if I die, 5 times in a row, I'm finally going to get it right this time. The game's designed for you to switch, and it's totally okay for someone else to ask you to switch. You don't have to switch, but just be open to the option of switching. And also the fact that offensive defenders can be really good. One example is Hanzo. I don't really like it when I see an offensive Hanzo. Again, I'm trying to kind of break that meta mold, but it can be very useful to have a sonar arrow on offense. It's useful to know where that Bastion is stacked up behind that Reinhardt, or where that Torbjorn turret is, where all of those Symmetra turrets are, so your team doesn't die. It can be very useful. It's just situational. Offensive defenders can be really good. So all of these misconceptions I've talked about really lead to the saltiness and toxic nature that we run into with Overwatch, the people spamming thanks or sitting in the back dancing, whatever it may be, not helping the team. I immediately report every single time I see one of those, because it's just disingenuous. Obviously, nobody appreciates that when you're trying to win a game and someone just quits because they're salty or toxic, or you chose their hero, on and on and on. If we all do a better job of recognizing these misconceptions, saying, you know what, I'm actually out of line here, you need to play who you're going to play. If you're skilled with that player, I need to give you a chance. We obviously don't have voice communication every single time, but you can very clearly tell, hey, you know, I'm going to give you a chance with this hero. If you help us, then obviously it's great. If you don't, then a switch needs to happen. That's kind of how things need to be, in my opinion. Almost like an Overwatch-related innocent until proven guilty code of conduct. We need to be nicer to each other, give each other chances. If things don't work out, that's when we make a switch. Finally, let's talk about, does the meta matter? Is it, something we need to always look out for? I think it's important to recognize balancing changes. Obviously, you need to know who has the advantage this time around and who doesn't, but also recognizing that heroes are all towards the middle. Everyone is fairly balanced no matter what changes happen. Obviously, Roadhog's hook is being reworked, and that's something we're going to see fairly soon. D.Va won't be as strong. She's effectively getting a nerf. Sombra will be better. Ana will be less effective as a healer, which could affect the current tank meta that everyone's talking about. And the reality is, if you play a great Ana, you'll still be better than 90% of the other Anas or even support heroes out there if you are skilled situationally, you know what you're doing with an Ana. Blizzard just hasn't nerfed any hero into the ground yet. No hero has been nerfed into mediocrity. Some people think it's going to happen for D.Va with this latest patch. I think we need a more, playtime and experience to really determine that. Essentially what I'm saying is, Pick your best heroes, practice in other modes, and then bring that skilled hero to comp, and ignore the toxic players. Play what you're going to play. If you're not finding personal success, then you need to be the one to make the switch. The meta certainly matters. If you're going to be knowledgeable and you're keeping up on the game, then the meta matters, but the meta does not dictate your personal skill, your ability to switch and find other heroes that can succeed when you're down in a game. That has nothing to do with it. We need to learn how to make switches at the right times and take into account what's going on with the balancing. So those were my thoughts on the perception of the meta and how it affects the community versus the actual reality of how things are going on. But I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking in the comment section below. How do you feel the meta affects you as a player? Do you think it is very important? Is it do or die? Or is it more of a skill thing like I am, implying in this video? Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section below. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for constant updates on when we're uploading new content. Check out our website at levelupgmg.com, where you'll find complete libraries of every single video we upload moving into the future. Also, if you're feeling generous, consider supporting us further through our Patreon. Becoming a patron allows you to engage with us directly and unlock exclusive content like monthly Q&A videos. So visit our Patreon if you'd like to learn more. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and click subscribe if you haven't already for more tips and tricks and gaming related videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here on Level Up Gaming.